Hi guys, so we're here tonight for the Fairest live video chat with Marissa Meyer. This is Fierce Reads' first video chat, and we are so excited to be celebrating it with Marissa Meyer and with this amazing book that we have been dying to tell everyone about for months now. It seamlessly fits into winter. It is absolutely a dream to be working on, and Marissa is a dream to work with, and we are so excited to get your questions and have Marissa answer them and really talk more about the Lunar Chronicles, because who doesn't love that? So I am going to turn it over to Marissa to start talking about Fairest.
Yay, that's me. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. I'm Marissa Meyer. I'm the author of the Lunar Chronicles, which are currently comprised of Cinder, Scarlet, and Cress. And next year will be followed with Fairest and finally Winter, the epic conclusion. So Fairest was just announced on Monday, and I'm very excited to be talking about it. But before I go any further, I feel like I need to also point out that I do have a cat on my lap, so if I'm like making weird gestures, this is Blackie. She's come to join me for the Fairest video chat because she is the fairest cat of them all. So Fairest is a prequel to the Lunar Chronicles. In Cinder, when we meet Queen Levana for the very first time, we know her as this very cruel, wicked queen who has this dictatorship on Luna. And throughout the Lunar Chronicles, she is kind of tormenting Cinder and all of her accomplices in her attempts to rule the Earth. Well, in Fairest, we go back in time to kind of get a better idea of who Levana is and what has brought her to this point where she's now so determined to rule Earth and will go to such lengths in order to do that. Fairest begins about 20 years before the start of Cinder, when Queen Levana is 15 years old. And it begins on the day of her parents' funeral. Her parents have been murdered by an assassin, a lunar citizen, who was not happy with their rule. And so now, as a result of their deaths, Levana's older sister, Channery, is about to be crowned the new Queen of Luna. From there, the story goes through about 10 years of Levana's life and really gives insight into what has made her the very wicked and horrible woman that we see in the Lunar Chronicles. It gives a lot of insight into Levana's relationship with her sister Channery and her niece, Princess Selene, the Lost Moon Princess. It also explains how Levana came to be the stepmother of Princess Winter, who is, of course, the title character of the fourth and final book. On top of that, for kind of astute readers, might remember that in a few chapters in Scarlet and Cress, it's mentioned that Levana always wears a wedding ring, but that she keeps that hidden beneath her glamour and doesn't allow anyone to see it. So Fairest will explain what that is all about and kind of go from there. And one last big mystery that will be unveiled in Fairest is what exactly lies beneath Queen Levana's glamour. So those are some of the things that you have to look forward to in reading Fairest. It does tie in a lot with the story and characters of the Lunar Chronicles, particularly Winter. The two stories are very much entwined. So I'm really excited that Macmillan was so eager to want to publish it and share it with readers, because I think it's a really important story that kind of rounds out the series as a whole. So yay, so exciting.
So we are so excited to, like I said before, we are so excited to be working on Fairest, and part of the announcement was actually this Lunar Chronicles video contest that ran from May 19th to June 13th. We had so many amazing entries. Everything that was submitted was fantastic. Lunartics are the best, and as part of that celebration and this ongoing Fairest and Lunar Chronicles bonanza, we have 3 of the Lunar Chronicles video contest winners here with us tonight to ask Marissa their questions on camera, the first of which is me.
Hey.
Hi, me.
Am I ready to ask my question?
You are.
Okay. I read on your blog that you're gonna reintroduce some of the past characters, but what new characters are you gonna be introducing? Oh.
Very good question. In Fairest, we do get to see Princess Celine and Princess Winter and Jason as children. Some new characters. Well, you try to think. Okay, what can I say that's not spoiler? That's going to be a challenge in this chat. I can already tell. You will get to meet Princess Winter's biological mother and father, who are two characters that I am quite fond of and had a lot of fun writing. And you'll get to meet Queen Channery, Levana's older sister, who it's kind of hinted at through the Lunar Chronicles that she is even worse than Levana. So that kind of gives some hints as to what you can expect from her. But she was actually one of those characters that really surprised me in writing her. She ended up having a lot more depth to her than I expected. So that was kind of fun and interesting to write about as well.
We had that one.
Do you have another question, Nee?
No.
We can come back if you think of one.
Yeah. And again, Nee is one of our first prize winners in Lunar Chronicles video contest. Her video is so original and really, really great hand drawings talking about why the Lunar Chronicles is the best and how she's been reading books forever and how this is the first fairy tale retelling that really struck a chord with her. And we are so excited that she could be here tonight. And so the next contest winner who is on our list tonight to ask questions is Shak Zoda and her sister, who worked on their first prize-winning video together.
Hi. Hi.
Hello.
So, well, you can call me sister, but my actual name is Shahida. But I'm just guessing that sister is easier to say. So, I'm gonna ask a question first, and that is, which characters are cat people and which characters are dog people? Because I can see that you're kind of into cats or animals overall.
That is such a good and hilarious question. Gosh, I have never thought about this. The easy answer would be Scarlet and Princess Winter are both definitely dog people. They both, throughout the course of the series, formed friendships with wolves who were kind of like dogs. So they're dog people. I would think that Cress is going to be a cat girl for sure. I can see her wanting to just cuddle up with a cat on her lap like I do all the time. Cinder would probably be a dog person also. I think that Cinder, I don't know why I think that, but I think that she would have a lot of fun training a dog to, like, do her bidding. And cats don't work that way. So that's my response. I'm going with that as my final answer.
Kai be a cat person?
I am totally a cat person.
What about Kai?
Kai? I think that Kai would love both. I mean, Kai is such a good, friendly guy. I think that he would love and respect all of Earth's creatures.
Hi.
Yeah, this is such a cat-centric chat. I love it.
Yes. And another question, this is what we've been wondering. What does Cinder look like? Because, I don't know, some people depict her as more oriental looking, or does she look more Caucasian, or I don't know.
Yeah, so I picture Cinder as being mixed ethnicity. Okay, if you haven't read Cinder yet, mute your feed for like the next 20 seconds. So Cinder is lunar, as we learn, and the lunars, they are all ethnicities and races. So it's hard to be like, she's Chinese, because that doesn't really mean anything in the world of lunars. But I do think that she probably has many ethnicities in her background. I picture her with tan skin and dark hair and brown eyes. One actress that I think looks a lot like how I picture Cinder is Shay Mitchell, who is in Pretty Little Liars. And her background, as I've heard, is she is part Filipino and part Irish.
Oh, Mitchell. Okay. Yeah, I gotta remember that. Right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Love your books.
Thank you, and good job with the video.
Thanks. Glad you liked it.
So, Shagzoda and her sister, I'm sorry, I don't want to pronounce it wrong. I'd rather just say sister instead of upsetting anyone. Made this amazing stop motion video where the different books in the Lunar Chronicles basically wiggle their way in to the frame. Cress is brought in by a giant braid. Scarlet has tomatoes that go around it. There's a little apple that's made for winter, and they basically steal Thorn away. And it's another one of our first prize contest winners, and they did such an amazing job. We're so excited to have them here tonight. And the third and final on-camera question before we move over to the online questions is from Samantha, one of our other first-place winners.
Hi.
Hi, Samantha.
Okay, so my first question is, when did you start writing Fairest, and when did you decide that you should release it before winter?
Very good question. So I have had the idea for Fairest really since very early on, when I was writing Cinder and knew that my evil queen was based on the evil queen from Snow White. I played a lot with the idea of who Queen Levana was and what had brought her to this point in the story. But so very little of her story gets to come out, particularly in the first book. So that was something that's kind of always been in the back of my head, but I hadn't given a whole lot of thought to until I was working on Winter. And as I was going through the second draft of Winter, I kind of kept hitting roadblocks in the story because Winter is a very Levana-centric and obviously Princess Winter-centric story. And their relationship is one that's very kind of complicated and goes back really Winter's whole life. And so I realized at one point that I needed to stop working on Winter and write Levana's story that had kind of been in my head and plaguing me for like 4 years by this point, before I could really move on, so that I could really figure out, what is their relationship and what is motivating Levana in these chapters. So that was last November, which is National Novel Writing Month, which I love. And so I decided that I was going to take a break from working on Winter to kind of knock out this draft of this Levana prequel. And I ended up writing the first draft in like 7 days. Like it was one of those things where it had been in my head for so long that I just needed to get it out, and it happened really quickly and went very smoothly, which was awesome, and I wish they could all be like that. So that's kind of how that happened. And then I went back and I finished Winter, and it went a lot more smoothly after that, so that was definitely the right decision. At that point, so then in like December, I emailed my agent and was like, I know that I'm under contract for like 3 books right now, but surprise, I wrote this thing and I don't know what to do with it. And she took it to Macmillan, and they read it and loved it, and immediately thought that it was a really important part of Lunar Chronicles' story, and that they wanted to publish it in hardcover, which I was thrilled about, and I'm still so thrilled. I'm really, really excited that they were so enthusiastic about it. So at that point, nobody else had read Winter yet. I still was keeping it, under lock and key. So we really were kind of going back and forth between, do we release Winter first, do we release Fairest first? And it wasn't until I submitted Winter to my editor for the first time earlier this year, and she read it and felt like she had such a better understanding of the things that were happening in Winter, having read Fairest, that was when they decided that Fairest really needed to be published first. I feel like that was a really long explanation, but that's how it happened.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I have one more quick question.
Go for it.
Since Fairest is like a prequel, should we put it before Cinder on our bookshelves or between Cress and Winter on our bookshelves?
I'm going to suggest putting it before Cinder, both chronologically, but also because visually the cover of Fairest, it matches the series, but it's also obviously its own kind of standalone thing. So when they're all out on my bookshelf, I know I'm probably going to have Fairest first.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, of course, it's your bookshelf, and you should feel free to do whatever you want with it.
Okay, thank you so much to Sam. Again, she's one of our first prize winners in the Lunar Chronicles video contest. In her entry, she cajoled her dog into posing as a wolf. She had so much Lunar Chronicles swag. It's just an adorable, well-edited, really sincere video. Before we start the online question and answer session, though, I did want to say what the reaction was in the room when we were told that Fairest was a thing. We were meeting about Cress, as we have regular meetings about some of our bigger titles, like the Lunar Chronicles, and we were talking about Cress. I believe it was in early January, and Marissa's editor comes into the meeting, and she closes the door, and everyone's sitting there, and we're talking about all of our plans. She goes, guys, we have a prequel. It's not an e-short. It's a book. And everyone bugged out. I'm telling you, keeping this secret for the last 5 or 6 months has been one of the toughest things to do, especially when you have so many bloggers and tweeters and people on the internet asking you, when is Winter coming out? What are your plans for Fairest? Or not what are your plans for Fairest, because I didn't know it existed. But it has just been such a thrill, and it's such a great story. I'm such a huge Lunar Chronicles fangirl, as evidenced by this video chat right here, and it's just so exciting. You guys are going to love it, and we are so excited that Marissa wrote it and that we're going to have it out in January. Yay!
Please.
And actually,
those things.
They're all true things. So I have a question before we actually move on to the online portion. Marissa, how tough was it to keep the Fairest secret over the last few months? Because I know we had you in the office, we filmed a few videos talking about Fairest. What has it been like to keep that under lock and key?
It's always difficult, and I feel like that's one of the weird things about the publishing world. I feel like I'm always keeping secrets from readers. In one vein or another, there's always something I'm not supposed to be talking about. And it can be difficult to remember what are the things I'm not supposed to be saying right now. So it is difficult. But I find if I'm not supposed to be talking about it, I don't talk about it to anybody. I actually had dinner with my parents last night, and my mom yelled at me because she was like, "What is this about this book? You didn't tell me that there was this big announcement coming out." So it's really seriously under lock and key, because that's the only way that I can keep myself from slipping up about stuff.
We had, so this book blogger, Cinder from Xander's Review, who isn't watching live, but I know is going to watch later, was in our offices a few weeks ago because he crowdsourced his way to BEA. And the first question he asked me when I walked in the room was, when is Winter coming out? He was serious. He was on point. And I was like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, the big question, of course, is always, when is Winter coming out? And then people are constantly asking me, is there really only going to be 4 books in the series? And so that one, too, it's like, yep, just 4.
Okay, so let's get started on the online questions. We have questions coming in from Twitter. If you haven't asked a question yet, you can ask a question on Twitter using the Fairest hashtag. You can access the Q&A app on Google Hangouts. It's this lovely Q&A button on the upper right corner, I believe, of your screen. And you can also submit something through the official Lunar Chronicles Tumblr Ask box. So the first question that we have tonight is from Elizabeth Aguilar. And her question is, will we have a huntsman? Winky face. Oh, what if he's Winter's love interest?
Well, what if he is Winter's love interest? I don't know. That's my answer.
That is a great answer. So this question comes from Sophie O'Brien. It was submitted through the Google Hangout Q&A app. What is an actress who looks like Cress and an actor who looks like Thorn, if you have them in your mind?
For me, my favorite fan casting that I've heard for Cress, and I actually don't know her name, but you probably do, Luna Lovegood. I don't know the actress's name. But her Luna Lovegood looks very much how I envision Cress. And the first time someone pointed that out to me, it was like, duh, of course, she's perfect. So that's kind of my number one. For Thorn, I get a lot of fan castings, and a lot of them are great, but none of them have like really jumped out as like, yes, he's perfect. I think if he was a little bit younger, I would really adore Dean Winchester from Supernatural for Thorn. But yeah, I don't know. But if you go on my Pinterest page, I have a Lunar Chronicles board, and I keep inspiration photos there. So anybody who wants to see kind of how I envision the characters, that's a pretty good place to look. And there's one on there, I don't know who he is, he's like a male model of some sort, but he is spot on for how I picture Thorn.
So here's a question I am personally invested in. It's from Dre T, submitted through the Google Hangout Q&A. Will Eco have a love interest in Winter?
I can't answer that. Can't tell you. No spoiler questions. Those are mean.
Okay, we'll avoid the spoiler questions, but that makes me happy.
I will tell you, Winter continues to play a main role in Winter as she has throughout the whole series.
Okay, so here's one from Michelle Santiago, submitted through the Google Hangout Q&A. Was it, you might have already answered this a bit, but I think you probably have something else. Was it harder writing Fairest than the other books in the series, since Levana is the anti-hero?
No, it was surprisingly easy. And I have no idea what that says about me, but evidently I like writing sort of messed up evil characters. Her voice came really easily and really clearly, and the story kind of just fell into place. And I think a lot of that is because, like I said, I had it in my head for 4, maybe even 5 years by the point that I sat down to write it. So I feel like it had just kind of been churning in the back of my thoughts for a really long time, and therefore once I sat down, it just kind of came pouring out. But yeah, so it was the easiest and quickest to write by far, and it is also has required the least amount of revisions. So it's been a really kind of painless process, which has been awesome.
So the next question is from Yan Ling Chen on Twitter, and she asks, why does the cover of Fairest look a bit different from the style of the other books in the series? It's much darker and creepy.
It is much darker and creepier. I think part of that, I mean, the covers are always designed by the publisher and the designer on staff, and so I actually have very little input and control over the covers. So this would really be a better question for them. But I do know that they wanted it to stand apart from the Lunar Chronicles. We wanted it to be clear that while it is a part of the series, oh, there it is. While it is a part of the series, it is also its own separate story. And it is much darker and much creepier, largely because the book in itself is much darker and much creepier. I loved one of the responses from one of my beta readers after she read it, was that, you know, in the books of the Lunar Chronicles, we're dealing with dark themes. There's violence, there's war, there's a plague. But I have the opportunity in these books to balance it out with romance and with comedy. Fairest, Levana's story doesn't really have that. It's kind of blow after blow as we watch Queen Levana descend more and more into madness. So the cover, I really wanted it to reflect that this is not a happy story that fans are entering into, and I think that the cover captures it perfectly. And I will say that the mirror that is represented on the cover has a significant role in the book, and it's so stunning. I actually ended up, after they sent me the cover, I ended up going back into the book and rewriting the description of the mirror to match the cover, because it was just so perfect the way the artist did it.
So the art team at Fywell and Friends, our creative director, Rich Dees, I believe, designed this cover. And on the screen right now is an animated version of the Fairest cover, which has given me nightmares and probably will give all of you nightmares, but in the best way possible, because it's so, like Marissa said, it's so stunning and it's so creepy and it's so dark. I just love the animated cover so much, so I wanted to share it.
It's so cool. And I also want to point out that the picture of Queen Levana that you see was one that I stumbled across on Pinterest completely randomly. I just saw it and was like, that is my queen. That is exactly how she is in my imagination. And so I pinned it, and then when we were talking about this cover, I emailed it to the designer to be like, you know, inspiration, here's kind of how I see her with the veil. And I think it's so cool that then they were able to actually use that in the artwork. They actually thought it was fan art when I sent it to them, but no, it's just, you know, we were just on the same wavelength, evidently.
So the next question is from the Google Hangout Q&A. This is from Brianna M. I know this is kind of off topic, but how excited are you for the new Sailor Moon?
I am so excited, but I also, I feel like I've been so not in the world, I've been so focused on my own books and writing lately that I keep missing things that are going on, and so it's like, you know, there's the new one coming out, and then there's the remake happening, and I don't really know what the schedule is for anything, so I'm kind of behind on the news right now. But I did see the little preview clip for it, and it gave me chills, and I was like a teenager all over again. I was very excited.
So here's a question from Stripey Smallfish on Tumblr. How and why did you choose to base the Lunar Chronicles around the moon?
Well, that's a good question to follow after the Sailor Moon question. So I wrote Sailor Moon fanfiction for many, many, many years. And the Lunar Chronicles actually started with a Sailor Moon fanfic, where it was a retelling of Puss in Boots, and the cat found the lost moon princess, because in Sailor Moon there's this whole subplot about this lost moon princess from this destroyed kingdom on the moon. And anyway, I ended up taking that and working it into the story of Puss in Boots. And then that was so much fun that I was like, I'm going to write an entire series of these. And that was kind of the seed that kicked off the Lunar Chronicles. And so I had that idea of this kingdom on the moon and this lost moon princess from the very beginning, and that was something that just kind of ended up moving into the series and becoming a really integral part of the story.
So the next question we have is from, just moved, is from Angelique Scandalakis on Google Q&A. If you could jump into your books, who do you think you would be?
People ask this, and I think that most authors have no desire to be their main characters, because we do really, really awful things to our main characters. Like, nobody gets off easy in this series. And so I don't really have any interest in being any of my main characters, but I would like to be Amelie, who is the waitress who Scarlet is sort of friends with, and you meet her in the beginning of Scarlet, and then you meet her again like halfway through. And she has a really small role, but she gets to live in this adorably quaint little French town, and she gets to flirt with both Wolf and Thorn. And I'm like, that's a pretty sweet gig that she got there. Yeah.
So the next question is from Sarah, as Lizzie Loves Book at Twitter. Which character's point of view do you enjoy writing the most?
I always, well, as far as point of view goes, I enjoy writing scenes with the funny characters, so like Eco and Captain Thorn. Any scene within them in it is always so much fun to write because they always say and do really crazy, awesome things that I'm not always expecting. But as far as which character whose point of view I enjoy writing most from, probably Cress. And I think Cress because she's the one that's most like me. And so I tend to, she's the one that I can really just kind of, not really so much be myself, but I get her. I understand her motivations. I understand what she's going through. She's kind of socially awkward. She daydreams constantly. She's an optimist, and she's naive, and you know, all of these things that I really connect with. So she's fun to write because she's one of the easier ones for me to kind of slip into her head.
So the next question is from Amy Potate. It came into us from the Google Hangouts Q&A app. Will we get more backstories of any more characters, like Wolf, Scarlett's grandmother, or maybe Prince Kai? She loves the books.
Thank you. You get to see glimpses of quite a few characters, but not a whole ton of backstory. You do get a glimpse of Kai in Fairest. You get a glimpse of Dr. Erland, and through him, Cress. You don't see Wolf, but there's talk of other wolfish things happening. Who else? So we talked about Winter and Princess Celine, and Jason. Yeah. And yeah, hints of Logan Tanner, who is the doctor that kind of plays a role in Scarlet. Again, I'm like, if you haven't read Scarlet, I don't want to spoil anything. So yeah, a lot of characters are hinted at, but much of this story takes place when my main characters are either babies or not born yet. So it's not, you know, they're not the focus of the story by any means.
So here is a question that we got from Tumblr, from TMBA Corbett, and they were wondering, are you already working on another book or book series? Will it be fairy tale related?
Yes, I am currently working on Heartless, which will be my first non-Lunar Chronicles novel. And it is a prequel to Alice in Wonderland, focused on the Queen of Hearts, and will tell how she became the Queen of Hearts, and how she developed this penchant for beheadings, as we know that she has. So that is what I'm currently focused on. After that, I do want to start another series. Heartless is going to be a standalone. So I do have in mind another series that I have not started working on yet, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be based on superheroes and supervillains. So kind of a deviation from the fairy tales. That's something that I'm very, very excited about.
Our next question comes from Zoe Stark as Pepper Perry on Twitter. Is there a certain event that defines Levana, or is it a series of events that makes her who she is in Fairest?
There is definitely one big moment that happened to Levana that I kind of feel was the starting catalyst for all of the horrible things that kind of came after. So there is one big moment, and it plays a big role both in Fairest and also in Winter. However, there's a little bit of both. So there's that one moment, but then there's also kind of a lot of things that build on each other over the course of the story, and some of those are things that happen to Levana that she is a victim of, and other things are based on the choices that she makes, which, as you can imagine, are usually pretty bad. She is not a very good decision maker. So it's a little bit of both.
So our next question comes from Nicole Kempf as Nicole Cassie on Twitter. What is your most memorable fan encounter so far?
Oh gosh, there's so many. I love going on tour. I love meeting with fans. And it's for me, a lot of the most memorable moments are the small ones. You know, there's the people who I go to take a picture with, and they're like shaking from excitement, which is so cool and yet so weird, and I kind of want to be like, I'm really nice, I swear. So little things like that. I did have one really awesome memory. Was that, I think it was on the last Fierce Reads tour in Boston, I think. And we were doing the signing line, and like the very first girl in my line was maybe 11 or 12 years old, and she had a gift for me, and she gives it to me, and I signed her book, and then she went away before I could like open the gift. And then we go through the signing line, and the signing is over, and I finally open it, and she had taken wire and twisted it to read Cinder and made a little Cinder necklace out of it. And then there was a card, and actually I usually keep it on my desk. Do I have it with me? Oh, it's buried under papers. But there's a little card that says, "Thank you for all the daydreams." And that just like melted me, and I thought that was the sweetest thing. And then she came back because she'd forgotten to get a picture, and when I saw her, I like, oh, you were the one that gave me the necklace and the card, and I gave her this big hug, and it was really sweet and adorable.
I remember you had that necklace when you were at the Macmillan offices last fall. You were really excited about it.
I did. I love it.
So here's a question from Kathy Coe on the Google Q&A app. Did you have the ending of the entire series planned out from the beginning? If so, did it change at all during the process of writing the books?
Yes and yes. I knew I had the whole series outlined before I started writing it, so I've known basically the ending from really early on. But things definitely change. Things are changing all the time. For the most part, the ending for the main characters has stayed the same. But there are, in some cases, characters that I thought were going to survive the series, and now they are not surviving the series. And there are characters that I thought I was going to kill off, and wow, they made it to the end. Amazing. So there are definitely things that have changed in big ways, but for the most part, the ending has stayed how I thought it was going to go.
That's an incredibly distressing answer. Great answer. Our next question is from Kenya Rojas on the Google Q&A app. Will Princess Celine's dad be revealed in Fairest?
Will her dad be revealed? Was that the question?
Yeah.
Can I answer that? I don't know. I don't know if I can answer that.
I think people have to read Fairest to find out.
Yeah.
Okay, so there are so many questions coming in, it's so hard to choose them. So here's a great one from Brianna Bosch on the Google Q&A app. Do we see Adri, Anne/, or Pearl again?
You do see Adri and Pearl again, and this surprises me. They are one of the things that have changed from that original outline. When I first outlined the books and I first wrote and finished Cinder, I thought we were done with them. I thought we would never see Adri and Pearl ever again, but they just keep coming back. And you know, they came back in Scarlet, and I thought, okay, now we're done with you. And then, bam, there they were in Cress, and I thought, okay, finally we've like moved past you. But nope, they're back in winter again. But I will say that I actually, as much as I kind of hate Adri and Pearl, the role that they play in winter ended up surprising me, and I'm really happy with how it all worked out.
So here's another question from the Google Hangout Q&A from Drea T. The red-haired guard at the end of Cress, well, he's throughout the books in parentheses, is that Jericho?
That is Jericho, yes.
So here's a question from Michaela Shockley on the Google Q&A. On your Twitter bio, you say you are a fan of sexy spaceship captains. There's obviously Thorn in your books, but does this mean you're a Firefly fan as well?
Oh yes, Thorn is in my mind kind of a mashup between Mal Reynolds from Firefly and Han Solo, who was my first love when I was a child. So huge fan of Firefly, huge fan of Star Wars, huge fan of Captain Kirk. I mean, spaceship captains. What did we do before there were spaceship captains?
So here's a question from Reginald Higginbotham. Will we, on Google Hangout Q&A app, will we see Levana's face in Fairest?
Oh, I can't tell you that. But I did tell you early on that Fairest answers the question of what is beneath her glamour. So I guess that's yes. Yes.
Here's a question. It's not a question, but it's from Liz Sabla, the editor of the Lunar Chronicles. And she says, hi guys, the videos are so great. Congratulations to all of the winners. And she has sent several emails throughout the Google Hangout saying how happy she is. So let's say hello to Liz because she's Marissa's fantastic editor. And we love her.
I love Liz. Liz is the best. She's such a rock star and such a huge advocate for this series.
Oh, here's a question from Ren H on the Google Hangout Q&A app. Where did you write these books? Is there a specific place where you tend to write? Do you write at home? Do you go to cafes?
Yeah, I'm kind of all over the board. I had a home office, but my husband and I are actually in the process of adopting our first child, which means that my home office has become the someday nursery. So I'm actually in my husband's office right now. I'm surrounded by baseball memorabilia, which is not quite as inspirational as I'd like it to be. So these days I spend a lot of time writing at cafes. And back during NaNoWriMo, I went to a cafe here in Tacoma called 208 Garfield, which is probably my favorite cafe to write at. And it got to a point during last Nano when I would go in at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, and go to order my coffee and go to pay for it, and the guy would be like, "I'll just start a tab for you. I know you're going to be here all day." So that was kind of cool. It's like, oh hey, I'm finally a regular. It's like one of my dreams. So I did a lot of writing there. And then there have been other cafes and restaurants that I kind of frequent. I kind of change. I go through times when I write a lot at home, and then times when I write a lot at cafes and restaurants.
So here's a question that came in through the Lunar Chronicles official Tumblr from Nicole Cassie. Where did you get the idea for the lunar powers?
Where did I get the idea for the lunar powers? So in the first draft of Cinder, it had been much more fantasy-based, and so the Lunars had magic powers that were like wizardry. Like they could shoot fireballs out of their hands and lightning bolts and like all these crazy things. And then when I started revising Cinder, and I realized that had no basis in science at all, and so I wanted to change it to do something where they were still, scary and powerful, but that come up with something that I could have, some sort of scientific explanation for. At the same time, in that early version of Cinder, part of Cinder's cyborg programming had been like, if there was like a code word, and if you spoke it, then she was forced to obey you. And at some point I realized that was like what happened in Ella Enchanted, and I was like, I don't want to do that, because, you know, we can only have so many Cinderella retellings out there where people are, you know, having that. So I kind of took that idea and took the crazy lunar idea and ended up combining it into this concept of, well, maybe the Lunars have this power where they're able to control people and manipulate people. From there, I got to start doing research about mind control, and I found that there were studies like back during World War II that found that if you give electric impulses to a person's brain, you can actually change their emotions. And so I ended up taking that and running with it.
So here's a question from Bailey Puckett, who on the Google Q&A app, who has an amazing Sailor Moon avatar, and thinks our questions will get lost. They are not getting lost. We just have so many questions for Marissa right now. And her question is, do you have plans for this year's NaNoWriMo that you can share?
Yeah, I hope, if it works out with deadlines and with other writing projects, I hope to be starting that superhero series, this NaNoWriMo. And I already know it will be a trilogy, but I haven't started outlining it yet, so we're going to kind of see if I'm able to complete that before November or not. But with the Lunar Chronicles, when I sat down to write them, I wrote Cinder, Scarlet, and Cress back to back, and wrote them all in a month during NaNoWriMo. And that ended up working out really well, because that really gave me a big picture scope of the whole story and the characters and how it all fit together. So if I can manage it, I would love to do that again with this new series. But I don't know, because there's kind of a lot happening now. So we'll see.
So here's a question from Gracie on Twitter, and her question is, what is your advice to young writers who have trouble taking their ideas from their heads to paper?
Really good question. Of course, the only way that you get better at translating ideas from your head to paper is to practice and to keep working at it. And try not to be perfect. I mean, I totally understand that you can visualize things in your head, and it's like you're watching a movie, and then you write it down, and it's nothing like how it felt in your head, and that can be really frustrating. But it doesn't have to be perfect. You can go back and you can revise and you can edit. The important thing is to get it down so that you have something that you can work with from there. And just keep plowing forward and keep writing.
And a question from Sarah Torres on Twitter is, after reading Fairest, will we love Queen Levana more, or will we grow to dislike her more?
That is a good question, and I don't have an answer. At this point, I have talked to, I think, 8 people have read Fairest, and it's been pretty much split down the middle. There are people who read it and have so much more understanding and empathy for Levana, and a great deal of pity for her. And then there are people who read it and, like, she is so incredibly messed up and evil and horrible. So it's really very polarizing. It goes both ways. Which I think is awesome. I'm kind of like really proud of myself that I've written something that gets such totally different reactions. We will see what your reaction to it is. Me personally, I have always, having known Levana's story, have always had a lot of pity and sympathy for her, which does not excuse all of the awful things that she does, both in Fairest and in the Lunar Chronicles. But I can understand a little bit where she's coming from.
So following up on that, a question from Ren H. Through the Google Hangout Q&A app is, what made you decide to write an entire book about Levana?
I feel like it just really needed to be written. you know, as I said before, I'd had the story in my head for so long, and as I was writing Winter and things just weren't coming together, I felt like I really needed to write Levana's story to figure her out and figure out her motivations and figure out all of the things that have come together to bring us to the point where we are in Winter. So it felt necessary for me to explore her side of the story before I could complete the books. As far as it being a full-length novel, that's just how long it took to tell her story. I actually expected it to be a novella. The first draft was under 40,000 words, but it has grown since then. So now it's like the same length as The Great Gatsby. So it's totally a novel.
So the next question we have is from Felicia R. on the Google Hangouts Q&A app, and her question is, do you ever read fan fiction or look at fan art of your series, The Lunar Chronicles?
I look at fan art all the time. Macmillan runs the Lunar Chronicles Tumblr, and I actually have to kind of avoid it because as soon as I click on it, like there goes 2 hours of my time where I'm just scrolling through and looking and ogling at all the fan art. I love it. I think fan art is the best thing in the world. As far as fan fiction, I also love that it exists. I totally encourage and advocate for fanfic writers, but I cannot read fanfics of my own works. In part, that's because I don't want them to influence what I have planned for the series. And people ask me, you know, when I'm done with the books, will I read fan fiction? And I honestly don't know. We will see when we get there. Part of it, I kind of feel like if I had known that Naoko Takeuchi, the creator of Sailor Moon, had been reading my fanfics when I was a teenager, I feel like that would have made me like really question, well, gosh, what if she's insulted? Maybe I don't want to do this. Maybe I don't want to change her characters this much. And I don't want to do that. I feel like if somebody wants to write fanfic of my work, that they should feel that they have the ability to do whatever they want with them. So I don't want fanfiction writers to like feel weird to think that, but what if she reads it? So at this point, I think that I'm going to be staying away.
So our next question comes on Tumblr from Inky Opinions, and her question is, do you have a favorite Eco fan cast?
A favorite Eco fan cast? I don't.
Have you ever seen anyone choose an actress to play Eco, or any fan art of Eco that you think really works?
Well, I guess because like for her escort droid body, you know, gosh, I've never given it any thought. Even though Eco has gone through so many changes throughout the series, when I think of Eco, I still picture like little tiny white-bodied robot Eco. So I haven't given any thought to who I would want to play her escort droid form. Yeah, I don't know. I have nobody. I wanted to go back a few questions and ask, when you read Fairest, did it make you love or hate Levana more?
So I read Fairest right at, like, I think the night that Liz Sabla presented it at one of our Cress meetings, and I remember I sat in this room behind our Wizards Only picture and read the entire thing straight through, and I started thinking, oh my goodness, this backstory, oh my god, her family is so messed up, everything is so terrible, poor Levana, oh my goodness, Levana is kind of crazy, she's not really making the best decisions. It was kind of she's crazy. She'd be crazy, but I loved every page of it, and I cannot wait. I actually haven't read a revised version yet. I can't wait to read the full version, and I think that people are going to go crazy. Not like Levana, but in like crazy way. When they get a chance to read
Levana crazy.
Hopefully no one goes Levana crazy. I mean, I hope that doesn't happen. But I mean, one of my favorite parts of Fairest, if we're talking about my obsessiveness over this series, is just really how it really, and this is something that we've been pushing out, at least in the Fierce Reads messaging over the last few days, is it really ties in so seamlessly to Winter, and you learn so much about Levana's own her own, like what influenced her and why she's making her decisions and what she grew up with, and then Winter and Cinder as Celine, and there's just so much there that I feel like gives such a richer history to the series, and it's just like Marissa said, or like you said earlier, it's really, if you place it before Cinder on your bookshelf, it's such a great addition to the series.
Thank you.
My answer.
Good answer.
So we're going to do 2 more questions because we do have a special Fairest sneak peek from Marissa coming up at the end. So this is a cool question from Michaela on the Google Hangout Q&A app. What do you think about the various titles and characters that appear on different covers across different country publications of Lunar Chronicles?
Oh, I think it's so cool. That's one of my favorite things about being a published writer, is seeing the foreign editions of the books. And I would say about half of my foreign publishers have used the American covers because they're awesome. They're such good covers. But it is really, really fascinating, the ones that choose to change it. And quite a few of them picture Cinder, and some of them show her, you know, hint at her cyborgness, and some of them go like full on, like all metal girl. And then some of them like have nothing at all to do with the book. Like, and I can never remember if it's Portugal or Belgium or some European country has, the cover has like this rope swing, and you can see this girl from like her waist down, and she's wearing this frilly skirt and like ballet slippers, and there's flowers on her lap and like feathers floating around her. And it has, like, I don't get this cover at all. But hey, if it sells, they're cool. So it's really odd seeing the complete scope of different covers and the different things that they think will sell in their culture and in their country. So it's awesome. It's fascinating.
So here's a question, an interesting question from Olivia Howe on Twitter, and her question is, if you could turn Levana into an animal, what animal do you think would represent her personality the most?
Oh, trying to think, what's an animal that is both vain and evil, and weirdly enough, my first thought was a cat, which, I don't know, it kind of like brings the chat full circle. But I don't actually think of cats as being evil. I don't know, maybe a fox? I feel like foxes have a reputation for being very sly. And she certainly has a slyness to her. Yeah, I don't know, I'm going to give that one some more thought.
Fox is good. So here is the absolute last question of the night, and it comes from Delaney Garcia on the Google Hangout Q&A app. Because Winter and Cinder will appear as children in Fairest, will we learn a bit more about Cinder's childhood?
You will learn a bit more about her childhood. The story does very firmly focus on Levana, and Levana is not good with children. So she does not spend a whole lot of time with her baby niece. But you do see Princess Celine in bits and pieces, and you kind of get to see her youthful relationship with both her mother, Queen Channery, and also Princess Winter.
So that was the last question of the night, but there were so many amazing questions that have come in and are continuing to come in. A few that are sticking out. Is the cover for Winter done? When the cover for Winter is ready, you will know about it. We will make the biggest fuss on the internet because we are so excited to see it. If you want Marissa to come to your local town or bookstore as part of her book tour, then shout it out across the internet. The more activity and interest there is, the greater a chance there is of that happening for future book tours, and just so many There's literally, I think, 5 pages of questions still coming in, people asking who dies. I'm pretty sure the spoiler that we cannot tell, and so many others. We'll do our best to answer everything that we can and parse it out across the Lunar Chronicles Tumblr and the Twitter account and see which questions Marissa might be able to answer over the summer. But thank you all so much. And right now, Marissa has a sneak peek, the first and the only so far official sneak peek of an excerpt of Fairest.
Yay! I know. I have mixed feelings because yesterday I had this idea like, oh, we're doing this chat and I could read an excerpt from Fairest. And I asked my publicist and she was like, yeah, as long as you keep it really short. And immediately when she said yes, I remembered that I don't actually like reading my own work. So what was I thinking? But I picked out a short, it's about 2-paragraph long excerpt from Fairest. So this is the very first sneak peek that you guys get. And when I was kind of going through the book and trying to decide what I felt would be a good excerpt, I wanted to choose one that I felt really set the vibe for the book. And so I ended up choosing one of the darkest things that I have ever written, which is also one of my favorite passages from the book, whatever that says. So it's a very dark, creepy passage from Fairest, which I think really kind of will give you guys an idea of what you can expect from the book. She felt no great loss at the death of her parents, who had been gone now for half the long day. 8 artificial nights. Their deaths had been terribly gory. Assassinated by a shell who had used his invincibility against the lunar gift to sneak into the palace. The man had shot 2 royal guards in their heads before making his way to her parents' bedroom on the 3rd floor, killing 3 more guards and slitting her mother's throat so deeply the knife had severed part of her spine. He had then gone down the hallway to where her father was lying with one of his mistresses and stabbed him 16 times in the chest. The mistress was still screaming, blood spurts across her face, when 2 royal guards found them. The shell murderer was still stabbing. Levana had not seen the bodies, but she had seen the bedrooms the next morning, and her first thought had been that all that blood would make for a very pretty rouge on her lips.
Dark and creepy indeed.
Totally dark and creepy, and she is so messed up.
So, Levana is very messed up is the theme of Fairest of this chat. So we really wanted to thank Marissa for taking the time to talk with us tonight and answer all these questions. She is phenomenal, and the Lunar Chronicles is phenomenal. A few things to keep an eye out for are more exclusive excerpts releasing from Fairest. We are going to be at Comic-Con with Marissa talking about the Lunar Chronicles. We have lots of plans all throughout the summer and the next few months. Stay tuned for Cyborg Monday later this fall. And, of course, Fairest is on sale on January 27th, 2015, followed by Winter in November 2015. It's going to be a very Lunar Chronicles Christmas and a very Lunar Chronicles year. And so thank you so much, everyone, for participating, and thank you, Marissa!
Thank you. Yay, winners, and thank you everyone for hosting.
Yay! And thank you again for all of the wonderful fans, those who are tuning in, those who will watch later, and the great people who submitted videos for the Lunar Chronicle video contest. We'll be announcing all of the winners later over the course of the next few weeks before Comic-Con. They are amazing videos. If you haven't taken a look yet, you can view all of the entries at lunarchronicles.net/contest. Have a wonderful evening.
Good night.
Yay!
Bye.